Well, good afternoon. It's 1:30, and so I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1:30. And the first item of business will be to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion from the board to approve the minutes? Jerry makes a motion.
A second.
Second by Nancy. All those in any discussion, particular discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 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 Unanimously approved. So we'll move right on from there to, let me introduce to you for sure, Diana Daniels, who's our new board member here. And welcome, Diana, to our board. Thank you. The next item of business will be the financial report by Rita Malone.
Alrighty. Let's start out with the revenue. Our total revenue for the month was $542,160. This favorable news exceeds the budget by roughly $26,000. The favorable variance is attributed to a couple factors. We had a little bit of growth in the census and PCC, our interest income, and the increase in meals and dining services for the month of May. Moving on to our year-to-date revenue, it stands at $2,655,659 with a favorable variance of approximately $76,000 compared to budget. This indicates that we have a positive trend in financial performance. Let's talk about expenses. Our total expenses for the month were $424,712, which is $12,000 under budget. We've effectively been able to control our expenses. Our year-to-date expenses amount to $2,132,926 with a favorable variance of $68,000. We've been under employee cost in the Mount Vernon Towers and the Morrison's employee cost, as well as our food cost. As a result, our net income for the month was $117,448. Overall, year-to-date, we have a favorable variance of $147,240. All right, any questions on that?
Questions, board? Questions?
No. Brian's asking for a question.
You want to do cash position or not?
Oh.
I think Brian.
Or Brian has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't see you.
It's a little hand.
Okay.
A big hand. And it's just the format. I haven't been here for the last couple of months, so just on the format of the meeting. Are you guys taking questions related to the topic at the time you discuss the topic, or are you waiting to the end? That's all.
We've been waiting to the end on those, Brian.
All right, I'll come back to it.
All right, thank you.
All right, on page 2, our cash position. We've finally crossed the $3 million mark, which is a significant milestone. I thought I'd get some claps on that. Our reserves currently stand at $2,426,244, and our operating cash is at $618,257, resulting in a total cash balance of $3,044,501. Considering the interest earnings in our reserves, I would ask the board to sweep an additional $125,000 from operating cash this month to the reserves.
Do I have a motion to sweep $125,000 to reserves? We have a motion from Nancy. Is there a second? Tricia's going to second. Any discussion on sweeping the 125? Jerry, Tricia, Nancy. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous to sweep the 125.
Okay. That'll be in addition to the $20,000.
That's in addition to the $20,000 that we are obligated to do by our previous board meetings, right?
Okay, moving on to page 3, dining services. I want to address this a little bit on page 3. Mount Vernon Towers was designed originally to subsidize the meals as part of the initiative to promote socialization. The cost per meal calculation that you've seen in the past and heard about has always taken the employee cost and the food cost divided by the total number of meals. Really didn't provide an accurate picture. Instead, we should consider the overall revenue and additional costs as well, as I've laid out here on page 3. In May, the total revenue for dining services was $67,940, with the total meals served of $6,591. That's an increase of almost 600 meals from April. This translates to a revenue per meal of $10.31. Our overall cost for dining services amounted to $147,075 in May, resulting in a cost per meal of $22.31. The actual amount per meal being subsidized for the month of May was $12. This worksheet in general is a more realistic way to look at how much of your HOA fee is actually being used to subsidize the meals. Board have any questions on that?
Questions?
All right, sales and leasing, we currently have 3 condos for sale that I'm aware of and 2 condos for lease. Jerry, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I can tell you we're a little bit slower than last year by maybe 50%. We've sold 10 units in the past 5 months. We didn't sell anything in January, so it's just, I don't know if it's the outside of the street or anything or whatever it is, but we're still pretty much full like always. And we still got about the same as far as leases go. We've got about the same percentage we've always had. So that's all for that.
All righty. Board-led groups, architect.
Okay, as far as the architectural committee goes, we had a meeting on June the 5th, and since then a few things have continued to improve, so I'll give an overview of what's current status is. As far as the parking deck goes, Walker Consulting has presented us with a recommendation on what we should do, and we have gone back to them and asked them to give us a breakdown on what the sequence of that should be, and we are waiting for them to finish that up to where we can go out to several contractors and get some pricing to work on the parking deck. The beauty parlor is still on hold. We haven't done anything there. Rick and his staff are just too busy with other items. The spa and PCC is nearly complete, and we anticipate that'll be done here very soon. The B elevator is still waiting for parts to arrive. The contractor on that is about as upset as we are why it's not done, and he's working diligently to try to get the parts from the supplier. The painting in the basement is complete, and I hope you have enjoyed walking those halls in the basement, which are nice and bright compared to how they had been. The furniture that we have acquired from Koala is still mostly in storage, and we're setting up to get some movers to bring a few more pieces over for the A elevator lobby. The studies for the chases are complete, and we have evaluated the numbers as far as how the moisture and the temperature control is, and it overall looks good. And we're working with Cooper Carey to get a set of drawings that can be permitted at the City of Sandy Springs. In our original contract with them, they were to provide us with drawings that are permittable, as it's known, and they hadn't done that. And we have gone back to them, and they are in the process of setting up to get us those permit drawings. We have been in contact with a couple of outfits to build a reserve study on what we need to put money aside for future years. And we have a proposal here we're going to put forth just in a minute. So Rita will do that in a minute. We have, lights have been completed on the ramp on the east side of A building, and those lights are nice and bright, and if you want to walk out there about 9:30 in the evening when, it's kind of dark, you can see how good they work. Or if you prefer, you can wait until December when it's dark at 5:30 and you can see them then. So those are in and working. So that pretty much is a brief rundown on the Architectural and Decor Committee. Our next meeting will be July the 11th. Okay? Rita, you have a proposal you want to make for us?
Yeah, I think Scott was going to talk about it.
Oh, Scott's going to talk about it. That's right. I got it out of sequence. Good. Thank you. But first, we're going to continue with our schedule here, and the dining committee is next. Jerry?
Rita had just spoken with Morrison's, and can you tell them what you just found out?
Yeah, I mean, we're almost done with the additional year that we extended our contract. They have agreed to go ahead and work on a new contract moving forward for an additional year. Instead of exercising the 5th year, we're going to rework the contract, put some KPIs in there and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Scott, you're going to give us a financial report, as I understand.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Goins, Chairman of the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee met a couple weeks ago. I can't even remember the date now, but myself, Rita, Tricia Morris, Scott Carrier, Brian Greenberg, Jeff Daniels, Jim Russ, and Al Burgess are part of the Finance Committee. We reviewed the report from Walker on repairing the parking deck and our other long-term projects. Rita is in the process of developing a computer model that will show us the cash flow versus the project cost and the project timing. This model will be very useful when we get the project quotes. The finance team plans to meet as soon as the architect team finalizes the quotes on their projects. The team also discussed the reserve study. As you know, a reserve study is a long-term capital planning tool that identifies the funds needed to offset ongoing major repairs. Rita provided the team with 3 quotes from qualified companies. The team chose Facility Advisors as the preferred vendor. Gary Porter is the owner of Facilities Advisor and is well known and well respected in the reserve study field. He will be actually doing the reserve study himself. The finance team voted to recommend to the board that they accept the quote from Facilities Advisors for $9,675. Thank you.
Okay, so what we need now is you want a motion to accept the quote from Facility Advisors for $96.75, as I recall you said. $96.75. Is there a motion?
Yeah.
Do we have a motion? Tricia makes a motion to accept that. Second by Nancy. Do we want to have any discussion? Any discussion or comments? Rita, do you have anything you want to say about it? Everybody's comfortable with that?
Yeah.
I think Scott had mentioned that Facility Advisors, the guy who's doing it is the guy who wrote the book on it, so it sounds like a good way to go, and the pricing sounds reasonable to me. So those in favor of signing a contract with Facilities Advisors?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. Thank you. Unanimous on that. All righty. Next will be Nominating Committee and Marketing Communications. Nancy and Tricia, you're going to fill us in on that? Thank you.
The nominating committee has updated all the materials for candidates and owners to clarify the nomination and election process. The reviews included recommendations for the HOA board and nominating committee moving forward, and will be submitted to the executive board before the July meeting for review. I'll do social now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The travel group is continuing to explore new options. Their next meeting will be August 5th, no meeting in July. The Welcome Committee is contacting new residents and offering Monday meals with neighbors when people register. The High Rise Living Series is on Mondays at 1:30 on the Sun Porch. We've held 14 programs this year. There will be no meeting July 1st. Topics are planned through November, and for July, the topics will be hearing health, health and safety at MVT, trash talk with Rick Weaver, and navigating Facebook with Tricia Morris. Also, later in the summer or early fall, the Fulton County voter registration is going to return. So if anybody needs to update their voter information or set up anything about voting in the general election, they'll be able to handle that. We also, after the balcony gardening program on Monday, there was interest in starting a gardening group, and there will be an organizational meeting next month. Let's see, the June 4th Buy for Nothing was a hit. Thanks to Joan Walsh and all the volunteers. The Apple products class will be repeated in some form for people, and then the Apple class and the bus to the UMC Roswell Music Program are two examples of ideas that came from residents, and I want to thank people for those. Some of the things that are coming up in July, we had a meeting yesterday with Rita, Brianna, Tricia, and I, and there's going to be a July Patriotic Music event on the 3rd. Tricia's going to demonstrate using the exercise equipment. There's a virtual tour with Jim Howe, an actual trip to the state capitol. There'll be movies outside on the courtyard. Danny Staggs is coming. We're planning a PCC open house for residents, and then the gardening group organization meeting. For August, everybody get ready, sign up. There'll be another trivia game in August. We are very open to trying new ideas and exploring options. However, we need a core group of interested individuals to sustain any activity. Check the Towers Talk for information, and sign-up sheets are in the mailroom for the different tours and programs.
As far as marketing goes, I'm still doing the Towers Talk, trying to make a few changes here and there, but basically will stay the same. The website, we're meeting with a web designer tomorrow, and hopefully we will have an idea of how we want it to look, and we will have a new website hopefully within the next month. And then, as Nancy said, I'll be doing a Facebook class. I will try to teach you. I can teach you how to do it. I just don't know how good I'll be at on the screen. But anyway, if you want to learn how to use Facebook, want to get on there, whatever, I will put something together, and we'll all get together and go through it. Another thing would help is if any of you are on Google, if you could leave a review for Mount Vernon Towers, a nice review, if honest and nice review, that will help us in the search engine optimization, which means when people go to find us and they search Mount Vernon Towers or whatever our keywords are, senior living, we should come up in the rankings a little bit higher. And it also is nice to see that when people do a search, then they'll see current reviews as opposed to some that are 3, 4, 5 years old. Thank you. And I can help you with that too if you need help.
What's the other stuff? That's okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. We have done nominating, marketing, and social activities. Is there any other new business from the board? New business? New business? No new business? All righty. Let's open the floor now to questions from the board, from the floor. Do we have any questions from the floor? No questions? We have one hand back there, and Brian. Okay, in a minute, Brian.
I believe I understood Rita to say that for the next year you'll be reworking the contract with Morrison's. If I understood that correctly, would you say a little more about that?
Well, we just discussed it in the executive meeting. The board's going to have to get together and go through the current contract and come up with what they would like to see in a new contract. I personally, what I would like to see is like I said, KPIs, performance goals that they have to meet, as well as some language in there about retaining staff.
Let me clarify that a little bit in the fact that we are not signing a new contract with Morrison's. We are in the process of looking at the possibility of signing an additional contract with Morrison's. And to do that, we would need to make changes in the current contract form. So we're looking at what the contract should look like if we go ahead with additional time with Morrison's. So that's still to be determined, okay? Brian, you had something you wanted to?
It was really about the financials, so I just want to make sure that if other people have questions about signing, let that happen.
Okay.
I just then what are the time frames that you're talking about with ending of contracts, possibly extending a contract? What's the time frame?
Well, as I recall, the contract is a February date. So we need to make up our mind 60 days before the date in February, and we'll be working on that now as opposed to waiting till the last minute. That's the reason. Brian, go ahead.
Just so we're real quick on the financials. So looking at it, looks great, right? The financials look great. And it was good to see that we were able to sweep some of that operating cash over the reserve as we've done in the past. There was only one thing that I've noticed, and I do get the details of it as a finance committee meeting, but there's one curious thing, and I'm not sure who to ask. We've obviously building the reserve. We are able to sweep cash. When I was looking at the budget and the taxes, we are favorable in taxes to budget. Okay, so what that means to me is we're either expecting to wipe out some of what is predicted as the amount of taxes we would pay, or we're sort of missing something, right? We expect to pay taxes. We expect to pay them on profit. We are generating profit in order to fund. What we do with that is we reinvest that in the community when we're ready to reinvest that in the community. But if we don't, we pay taxes on it. So the question is why? What is driving the dislink between the budget of taxes and the actual, I guess maybe they're quarterly taxes that we're paying? Is that what it is? So in advance of, an expectation. So what's driving that difference?
The taxes won't be due until 2025, so we'll be budgeting that in our next meeting. Right now, Rita pays estimated taxes based on last year, and that's already been budgeted as close as we can get.
Okay, but the budget is what we pay this year, right? Right. So the estimated taxes should be aligned with the budget, right?
No, not yet, because we base our estimated taxes on what we paid the previous year, and then we pay extra.
Oh, okay. So that's how we're doing our forecast. So do we expect, based on all the work that's going on, there were things that we delayed last year at the end of the year, like the elevator didn't come in, we didn't do the painting in the dining room, we didn't, do a number of things that we had hoped to do. And we've covered some of those things now, it sounds like. we've got a parking deck that it looks like we're investing in that we may not have, we knew it was there. I don't know if we knew how much. So the question is where do we think we're going with the profit in FY24, right? And how that will impact that piece of the budget, which has got estimated taxes in it. That's really the question that I'm asking.
Right. So based off of what we've done so far and the first, assuming that we would start the first phase of the parking deck, I'm saying September, after talking to Walker, we've calculated that our estimated taxes would be about $15,000 a quarter for federal and I think about $6,000 for state.
That's based on 2023.
Right, based on 23.
We don't actually have the 2023 tax return yet, so we're estimating I'm estimating what our actual tax liability would have been for 23. And we made a payment on that in April. When we file a return, we'll know exactly, and we can adjust.
Yeah, by the way, I'm totally comfortable with the taxes, right? I'm totally comfortable with it because it just tells you you're making a profit.
In my opinion, we'll be paying taxes for 24.
Right.
We won't.
Correct.
I would hope
we
so.
won't
Look,
use all of it.
you're saving, you're putting in the bank 80 cents on the dollar, right? And I'd rather put it in the bank than spend it on things that aren't good spends for Mount Vernon Towers. We need to spend it on what we need to reinvest in Mount Vernon Towers, what we need to do. And we have some big things to do. And if we save it for now in order to defer something like an assessment, I think that's a great idea. So, okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I understood that we had a sane approach to the estimation of the taxes and the way we're dealing with it. Sounds like we do.
Yes.
Any other comments? Any other questions? We have no questions, then the next meeting is scheduled for July 24th to be followed with August the 28th. Do I have one more thing? Okay, Nancy's got some new business. Go ahead.
I forgot. One of the other things that's sort of a small appearance thing we're working on and have been for a while in the it's marketing and building related. But we've cataloged all the signs in the building. You may have noticed that the unnecessary signs have been removed, all the things that were taped with assorted tape colors, etc. They're gone. The necessary ones are being replaced with like clear gel signs that give instructions or directions. We're putting up consistent trash room messages, and we're also going to have like a welcome sign, which we've never had in the front, and some others around the building. But it's a program that's in process, but just wanted to let you know that it should be clearer and better, more welcoming to people who come, particularly from the outside.
Janice.
I had to think about my question. Okay. I don't want to bring up an old subject. However, I will. Actually, what I really want to say is that I have a dire need, I guess, to help in any way that I can. However, I think that it should actually come from a sponsor at the board. And the issue is still, how can Mount Vernon Towers work towards either changing the bylaw or the declaration? I'm hoping this year, so therefore it needs to be started quickly, on a cap for new investors coming in. I don't know if it can be done, but nothing can be done unless there's some work put forth to trying to make that happen. So I guess I'm asking is if the board would consider having a representative from the board to put a team together to work on how we can make that happen. Maybe I'm the only one that would like that, but I believe it's absolutely necessary with going forward for the future of Mount Vernon Towers. Thank you.
At this point in time, the board has not discussed that, but I think that that's something that we probably should discuss among ourselves and decide which way to go. So we'll be looking. Thank you.
And if you're going to change the bylaws or the declaration, it would be great if you would also change it to that no smoking is allowed in the building or on the premises, and anyone that currently lives here would just be grandfathered in.
Yeah, they're both declaration changes.
Can I say something? I think if we went to the trouble, I've been in buildings where we redid bylaws, if we go to that effort, it would make sense. When you go through that process, you don't just change one thing. You look at everything so that everybody, the things, and it's a long process, but. You need a bylaw committee. Yeah.
Right. But these two items would be a declaration change, which would require 2/3 of the votes.
2/3 of the community. Yeah.
I've just got a comment to Janice. So Janice, if the board doesn't want to take that up, we can do that by petition, right? We can do that by petition, just like we did the smoking policy by petition. And, you know, I'm in favor of something like that. We had a proposal 2 years ago, right, that got derailed by an individual who's no longer in his position. And we, if the board wants to address it, that would be great, because I think it's something that's worth a discussion, if nothing else. But if the board isn't ready to discuss that, doesn't want to discuss it, doesn't want to form a committee to evaluate the relationship between resident owners and investor owners, then I think that we should take that up in petition. That's all.
Here, you want to use this one?
I think I feel the need to say this. I do not want anyone at Mount Vernon Towers believing that I do not want renters. That has never been a point of contention with me. My point has been that we are a home here for Mount Vernon Towers residents. We do have family-owned, and we consider them the residents that are here. The issue that I want to make very clear is I don't want anyone to leave. I think everybody deserves to stay here, and I'm glad that they're here because I like you. However, what I'm looking for is some type of a grandfathering in so it doesn't impact negatively on anyone that is here. It may impact future sales, but it's not going to impact the residents or the owners here until we do a cap and see what that can or cannot do. I think we can do it without making everybody in a brouhaha. I really do. I think that there's ways to overcome, and maybe that's why I look to the board maybe to do some of that research, but I can do that as well. And I'd love to work with it.
Thank you, Janice. You know, you and we have spoken about this before, and the board has just not addressed it formally at this point in time. Any other comments, questions? Nothing. Is there a motion on the table to adjourn? We have one from Nancy. Is there a second? Second to adjourn. Tricia, all in favor of adjournment? Aye. Aye. Unanimous on adjournment. The meeting adjourns at 2:05. Thank you.